Yeah, boom to the hay, all you sports fans, or to you, the individuals, part of the collective out there in the Tubosphere. Welcome to Fast Track Sports Rack Highlights here on Talk Radio version of the OMSR. I am your host, brief but concise, Will, the alternative ESPN Sports Thrill. Talking Monday morning quarterback in here on this segment. And all the video highlights courtesy to College Football Daily on Monday mornings, all at ESPN. Everything else to the OMSR. Sponsor of this show is the DMCA, Digital Millennium Copyright Act. So anytime, I got something going over just the 5-minute mark, I like to do a little segment of what I call a show with it. So the whole thing bundled together is like a show. All right, parts 1 through 4. So I'm covering all the bases, not sure which part you're watching, but check it all out. Part 1, talking the BCS numbers as they came out yesterday, and why Stanford is ahead of certain unbeatens and how it's all going to work out. Part 2 is the top 5 most impressive. That goes a little bit longer this week, even though they weren't gabbing so much. And then in part 3, nice little short on building up to Florida State, Miami. I'm sorry, that's the roundtable discussion. I'm getting mixed up. Parts 3 and 4, they're interchangeable, I guess. With regard to Nick O'Leary and the bullet bite wreck, we got that on the channel in color if you want to check it out. Bo Pelini at Nebraska. Bo Pelini, right? Not Po Pelini. Bo Pelini at Nebraska. His future. Tommy Frazier, just can it. Again, another example of Twitter getting carried away with. And all that stuff going on. And then, of course, Dwayne, that ultimate sports fan at the end. Now, Dwayne is a copywritten, caricature mascot of Monday Morning Quarterback and here at the OMSR, and the artist Hugo Chevalier. So my question to you, here's the only interactive part of all the segments on the OMSR. What do you think Dwayne is saying darn that about? There's so much stuff going on this weekend. But I think he's saying, darn that UCLA defense letting Oregon score 28 unanswered. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching. No silly DUIs while you're out there. Later days and more signature plays.
College Football Daily and A. Schropp, joined by Paul Feinbaum and Jason Seymour. Big show for you today. We're going to give you our most impressive teams from the past weekend. Everything that's going on in Nebraska, thanks to tweeting Tommy Frazier and Danny Cannell, will set the scene for this coming weekend's biggest game. But first, of course, it's Monday. The BCS standings, they came out last night. We now get to react to them, complain, disagree. Alabama, they're still at 1. I don't think that's a point of contention for anybody. Oregon jumped Florida State, so the Ducks now go to 2. Florida State at 3. Oregon had that win over UCLA. Ohio State stays put at 4. Stanford is the highest-ranked one-loss team at 5, and the Cardinal ahead of a couple of unbeatens in Baylor and Miami. Let's begin with that number 2 position. Oregon jumping Florida State. Really, you can't say that was a surprise. That was kind of what we expected with Oregon having UCLA on the docket.
No, I think it's now become a conversation about who are you playing. And in Florida State's case, after a week of promoting how great the ACC is, it's not that great. When Duke beats Virginia Tech and Miami almost loses, they have some real problems in that league. In spite of a game of the century this weekend in Tallahassee where one team was a 3-touchdown favorite.
This whole process going forward is a strength of schedule issue. That's all it is. Each week is going to be based on who are you playing. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Florida State leapfrog back over Oregon because they get to play Miami, who's a top 10 team. They should win that football game, and Oregon's off. So you would think that, and remember, it's mostly computer-based because I don't think the human poll is varying that much. But we're talking about Ohio State started the season at number 2. And when they started the season number 2, everybody knew what their schedule was. And they've simply moved down 2 spots for being undefeated. So you realize it's not how well you win.
The Dangerfield of college football can't get no respect.
It's who you play. If you're not playing a tough schedule or a tough opponent, you're not going to move up.
And the human component here. When you look at the top 3, which seems to be, everybody looks at the top 3 and says there's a distinct difference between Alabama, Oregon, and Florida State and everybody else. What is the separation in your eyes just between those three teams?
I would say it's the consistency. When you see these three teams, outside of that very first game where Alabama didn't look good offensively, they looked fantastic defensively, they've been pretty consistent all season long. There's been one close game, A&M, and we'll say Manziel's a little bit different than the rest of the quarterbacks, so he presents that issue. But the other two teams, Florida State and Oregon, haven't had letdowns. They've been consistent the entire year, offensively and defensively.
Paul, what do you make of one-loss Stanford sitting ahead of undefeated Baylor in Miami?
It's ridiculous, at least in terms of Baylor. Baylor should be ahead of Stanford. Stanford lost, what, at Utah? I don't understand that. But, again, that will take care of itself. And, you know, we'll say next week all of this will take care of itself. On a Thursday night, whoever thought the best night of the year was going to be Oklahoma, Baylor, and Stanford and Oregon, and then the Alabama-LSU game, an afterthought 2 days later?
Listen, Baylor plays Oklahoma, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, and Texas to finish the season.
Hey.
They'll be above Stanford if they can stay undefeated.
Maybe
if they win those games, you look what Baylor's doing.
Amazing.
There's only two teams on that schedule, by the way, that have a winning record. Buffalo and FCS Wofford.
And I'll say that.
Backloaded.
So there you go. Therein lies the reason why a one-loss Stanford team, because we also, remember, we talk so much about which conferences are the best, right?
Yeah.
Well, if your conference as a whole isn't rated very high or ranked very high, you don't get credit for beating those teams. Now, theirs is kind of top-heavy, and they're going to play all those teams in the season. I think they'll move up.
Yeah, I'll say one more thing. I think we were all a little early to rule the Big Ten out. It's getting better, and if that snafu hadn't happened at the end of the Wisconsin game a couple weeks ago, that would have been a better win for Ohio State. Michigan looking a little better than they were.
What do you think needs to happen for Ohio State to move back into that championship picture?
Carnage.
I mean, they need Oregon and Florida State to lose. Plain and simple. They're not going to leapfrog them based on their strength of schedule and who they play the rest of this season unless those two teams both lose.
We talk about opportunity games. You've got Ohio State, certainly they'll have that opportunity at the end of the year against Michigan, the Big Ten championship as well. Although Michigan's got to play better, so if Ohio State beats the Wolverines, that counts for a little bit more. But there's an opportunity game in Tallahassee this weekend as well. Florida State taking on Miami. If Florida State wins with Oregon being idle, maybe it's only for a week, but do you see the Noles then jumping Oregon again?
They don't have to win. They have to crush Miami because they're a 3-touchdown favorite. Winning by 10 points is not going to be enough. But Florida State's capable of crushing Miami. I think a lot of teams are capable of crushing Miami after Saturday.
Watching Miami the last 2 weeks against North Carolina and then Wake Forest, you would think that Florida State's going to put up 50. Okay, they've kind of gotten by, we'll say. Now, Oregon is going to have Stanford right after that. So no matter what they do this week, even if they leapfrog, when Oregon, if they beat Stanford, they go right ahead again. So it's basically, who have you played? And we've seen the ACC. Unfortunately, it was looking good. And then you see just these teams struggling to win or losing. You're like, oh, that's not so great. Now, Clemson's only played 2 ranked teams all season. One was Georgia, who isn't the same team, and one was Florida State. They got beat by 30.
How about this? If Miami somehow pulls the shocker, they're right now number 7 in the BCS.
You feeling okay?
I'm feeling okay. Hypothetical. This is what we do. This is what we do on Monday. If Miami somehow pulls it off and knocks off Florida State on the road, they'd be an undefeated team. They're now, the ACC's golden goose, if you will. How far do you see Miami potentially?
That's even though I made fun of your question, it's a good question. I think they'll move up, but certainly I don't think they'll move up ahead of third.
No, if Stanford wins, they're not going to go over Ohio State, Oregon, or Alabama. So maybe 5.
Think about the opportunity potentially in front of Miami if they beat Florida State. They'd have Virginia Tech the following week, and even though Tech lost to Duke, I was in Blacksburg for that carnage, as Paul calls it. There's an opportunity again for Miami for another quality win, and then potentially another rematch against Florida State in the ACC championship.
I think that's a good argument.
And the difficult thing is you calling Virginia Tech a quality win after what we've seen this season from Virginia Tech.
Up until Saturday, they only lost to Alabama.
Absolutely, but they've gotten by all season long. So
I said on Friday, I made the point, I said, don't forget, Alabama's got a really good win over Virginia Tech. Didn't realize what was going on.
Oh, hindsight's great, isn't it?
Duke is 6-2, folks.
First time bowl eligible in 2 straight seasons ever.
Ever. There is the top 10.
Monday Morning